Today's list, we're going over 10 of my favourite action titles that have debuted in 2023. Kicking things off right off the bat is Shangri-La Frontier. A new kid on the block, Shangri-La Frontier already got out to a big reception with its first few episodes. Gaming anime are a dime a dozen, and while I won't pretend that this show is the best one of them all, it does a great job capturing everyone's attention from the get-go due to its overall quality and eye-catching characters and game designs. The animation is awesome, and this is a series whose author did some thorough research on gaming. Overall, there's an air of geniuses here, and it felt like the guys behind this poured their all into it, making it a passionate love letter to gaming and the community that made it possible. And it's a plot with a goofy start that gets even better as the anime goes on. If you're still sleeping on the show by the time this video comes out, then come on, have the time of your life. Shangri-La Frontier is such an entertaining show that even non-gamers can enjoy. However, those who've been in the world of video games will find it one of the most fun rides in 2023. Here's to a seasonal contemporary, Undead Unluck. Undead Unluck, like Shangri-La Frontier, made some great first impressions coming into the fall 2023 season. I mean, I had high hopes for it entering the season, and I'm glad to see that it got the start that it deserved. All it took was a first episode and a cool opening sequence to get the anime community talking. With a compelling story and what seemed to be David Production putting in a lot of effort in making a great adaptation, Undead Unluck could be the sleeper hit of the year when it's all said and done. The one thing that I can see from holding this back from becoming even bigger is the weird streaming rights thing that also locked people who watch legally, just like what happened with Summertime Render back then. But that shouldn't be enough to stop devoted anime fans from being able to experience this fun and exciting story that gives everyone a slice of everything you'd want from a Jump series. Wacky turns of events, some top-notch action sequences, and a sprinkling of fan service that shonen fans won't be strangers to. Make sure to tune in to Undead Unluck when you get the chance to. Buddy Daddies comes in as our next entry. It's been said over and over again, and I'm gonna say it once more. The timing of Buddy Daddies couldn't have been more intentional. The anime looked like it was aiming to ride on the high of Spy Family's ultra successful release. It's happened before with the influx of post-apocalyptic violent monster versus human series back when Attack on Titan was the hottest thing in town. But I'd say that Buddy Daddies eventually carves out a niche for itself that makes it feel similar to its counterpart, yet very engaging in its own right. I mean, for one, Buddy Daddies as a show feels compact and engaging as a story. That largely has to do with how the anime treats some of its themes, like the child-rearing aspect and having decently realistic characters for an anime in this genre. I do think those elements are pretty strong, especially on the character development front. While its plot isn't exactly groundbreaking, it has a couple of serious moments with gravity that help balance out the ample time we have with the comedic slice of life. It's easy to pass Buddy Daddies as riding on the success of another show, but do give it a try. It will provide a different experience and might just be the one you're looking for in a childcare anime. Talk about successful remakes. We have Kenshin 2023 up next. Similar, yet different, takes on a whole different meaning when it's Kenshin 2023, a remake of a 90s classic that's managed to give both new watchers and longtime fans something to look forward to. What the 2023 remake does is take the same story from the old Kenshin and give it a modern retouch featuring way better visuals and a story that follows the manga more closely. What it means is that it's an anime that delves more into the drama and the serious mood that the original manga's going for. Not that the source material is devoid of comedy and light-hearted moments though. Kenshin's not that kind of show, definitely. As someone who's loved the 90s version of the anime, it does make me feel a bit longing. The overall peppy feeling of the original, both in the legendary opening and the reaction faces, just isn't quite there anymore, and in place of it, a more retrospective and somber atmosphere. That doesn't mean it's bad, however. It just means that this is a nice retread into familiar territory for fans. I don't quite mind the change as much. It's still got the reflective story and the nice battle scenes down pat after all. Mashle is also making quite a name for itself. It seems that there's always a market for parody anime, one which takes some familiar tropes and then turns them up to the point of self-awareness and over-the-top comedy. That's Mashle in a nutshell. Looking at it, it's easy to go on a tear and have fun playing a game of who's who with everything. Mash himself reminds me of Saitama, and it's very obvious that the whole setting is inspired by Harry Potter. And while something like Seven Spellblades draws little attention to it, Mashle's overall tone makes the whole knockoff aspect all the more obvious. But when it comes to execution, Mashle has that part done amazingly. The scenes and the twists are just about what you'd expect from a show like this, and while the characters aren't unique, they all play their roles perfectly for the setting. If you want comedy, some insane fights, or simply something to remind you of the good old days of One Punch Man or Saiki K, Mashle could satisfy your cravings one way or the other. With that, we've arrived at the halfway point on our list. Quite a lot of action anime to go, but if you've been enjoying the content so far, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Up next, we have Trigun Stampede. Kenshin isn't the only 2023 remake of a beloved classic. Much earlier this year we had that modern take on Trigun, which ended up being quite similar to Kenshin in making something similar to the old product, yet different in both subtle and drastic ways. And that's not talking about the overall design and feel of Trigun with the decision to go CG. Trigun Stampede reintroduces original fans to the cast and the world they're familiar with, but with a shift in tonal focus to emphasize more on Vash. The character itself, his origins, and his relationships with the people around him are given a bit more focus, and it opens up a rather new perspective that I'm sure new fans and returning ones are actually going to appreciate. That's not to say that the anime has turned all introspective and carries with it a bogged down pace. At just 12 episodes, this show remains pretty compact. It gets to the point rather quickly, and it sprinkles all those gripping moments with action sequences that were rendered pretty well, CG considered. Vintage anime has always been an attractive target for remakes, and I think that 2023 has been a decent year for them as far as action titles go. Zom 100 also makes it to the list. This one sure takes me back to the zombie craze of the 2010s. Are zombies cool again? Well, not exactly, but Zom 100 wasted little time setting the anime world on fire. No, adding a premise and a main character more relatable to the weary fresh grads and youths of today doesn't exactly make Zom 100 a unique zombie apocalypse story by a substantial amount, but who cares about being original when you can stand out in other aspects? You know, like having movie quality art and animation from the get-go and a very expressive and charismatic cast of main characters. There's impeccable chemistry between members of the main group, and individually they feel very loud and fun in their own ways. All that came together to push the bar on what already started a pretty enjoyable ride through the zombie-laden Japan. Zom 100 is a solid watch, definitely deserving to be one of the best of 2023. It's just unfortunate that it's a victim of production problems here and there, but with what we have right now, it's still a worthwhile watch. Why don't you check out the source material while you're at it too? It's nothing too original, but as I said with Mashle a while ago, the execution and seeing the characters in action make it a great watch. Hell's Paradise takes you on an adventure to remember. If you think the bright lights and the overall celebratory mood of Zom 100 aren't to your liking, Mappa's Hell's Paradise can be a pretty good alternative. Carrying the same amazing animation that Zom 100 had, this anime takes you to a treacherous island of adventure. Hell's Paradise isn't as grim as the title or the art might actually suggest. An apt comparison for me would be Dororo from the previous decade, which also came from the same studio. There's the whole historical setting and all, and it blends the traditional setup with the mystical allure of the supernatural. The fights in Hell's Paradise are action-packed and brutal, and it really gets you pumped when the music hits. The action sequences are the best part of the anime, but it's also no slouch when you consider character building and giving us some meaningful questions to ponder upon. Hell's Paradise is criminally underrated in my opinion. It doesn't have as much of a loud presence as some of the big titles of the past year or so, but it does deserve some love. It's no Chainsaw Man in terms of hype, I can say that, but among Mappa's recent works, I find this to be a very easy anime to recommend to someone getting into the medium while looking for thrilling action-adventure anime. If we're talking underrated, how about Blades of the Guardians? Hell's Paradise may be underrated, but I practically see no one talking about Blades of the Guardians. Chinese anime don't have public marketing to the mainstream at all, and they're completely overshadowed by even the moderate hits of the season. I'm not suggesting that all of them are great or that the best of them are better than the big hits from Japan, but I think it's also good if I can share some of them with you. After all, we've got a showcase of insanely good fight animation and action sequences from old hits like White Cat Legend, and a lot of good things can be said about Blades of the Guardians. Blades of the Guardians has a simple premise with a historical backdrop, but there's something gripping in the show that would make you want to keep watching it. It could be the characters, or the way the story moves on and develops at a good pace. It allows you to settle into the world while feeling the stakes and the dangers of its era in history. It didn't take too long for me to be hooked and immersed in this anime, so you should give it a shot and see for yourself too. Lastly, we have Heavenly Delusion. Remember To the New World? Or Promised Neverland? Well, here's a similar title, and I think it surpassed all expectations and became my favourite amongst the new action anime from 2023. Integrating good world building and engaging mysteries into an action title turns out to be quite a decent formula for success. Who would have thought, eh? And it helps that there's this uncanny atmosphere to keep the viewers on edge, perfectly contemplating the more mature themes the anime has for the audience. It's not something made to be a mainstream hit like the big action titles are, but it does more than well enough for itself, I'd say. Heavenly Delusion does have rather risque content that might shock viewers, but it remains one of the best in 2023. With enough action and an interesting world, one filled with a sense of mystery, it showcases the potential of action anime. It's not all about the breathtaking animation and loud showcases of power after all. I get the appeal of hype, but there's a lot more to anime action than those, and Heavenly Delusion more than proves it. I'm also curious to know what the best of 2023 looks like to you, so don't hesitate to share those as well. This has been a pretty fun list to make, and I hope you can check out the channel to hear my thoughts on other topics, or see how well my pre-season takes have aged now that we start to say goodbye to the year 2023. Thanks for watching the video, and I hope to see you next time.